Satnam Aloha, everyone. And, okay, my mic's on. So if you could write down your astrological information in your human design, too, that would be great if you feel called to. And let me share my screen. Satnam Aloha, everyone. And, okay, my mic's on. So if you could write down your... There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so we can see that. I just updated the software, so there's a few little learning curve things I have to do. Okay. So here we go, everybody. This is the new moon, and according to the human design chart, the transit chart. And so that's tomorrow, June 17th. But remember that this energy takes us till July 2nd. So it's not just like the new moon's tomorrow and then that's it. We're done with it, right? So what's the new moon here? It plants a seed in the emotional body of humanity for our evolution. So the last new moon, if you remember, in Taurus was way back in May 19th. And that was in the 8. And there we go right here. If you can see my mouse here. Just want to make sure that, okay, there we go. So if you can see the 8, right? This is the throat chakra right here. That was the new moon was in the 8. And what was the 8 all about? It was the shadow of mediocrity. It was the gift of style and the city of exquisiteness. So basically it was about seeding the emotional body with everything that's not your authenticity, right, gets purged. So we were in that learning curve, not caring about what other people think of us, right, their opinions and their judgments and whatnot, right? And then the full moon was the shadow of impatience that we've just gone through. So now we're in a new lesson, right? So I'm hoping and praying that everybody watching this is more their authentic self. Right? More and more their authentic self. And the thing is, with this time that we're in, you know, for the Aquarian age, it's the age of truth. And the truth is your authenticity. This is what's going to get you through this time, through this the great transformation that we're going through. So now we're in the shadow of self-importance. There's that 12. And the gift of discernment in the city of purity. So you can see here, like, let's look at a channel, right? So this is the solar plexus. So it's at 37 is activated, and the 36, Saturn. Remember, my last video is all about this. This is the shadow of weakness, not feeling supported, right, by life and other people, right? So go back and watch that video if you haven't already. So this 36, 35, this makes a channel. Right, so this gate is activated. You can see the 36 correlates to Neptune, right? Neptune. And then the 35 is Mercury. So Mercury and Neptune join up together and they create a channel. So this means that the throat is defined and the solar plexus is defined globally, right, for the whole planet. So this is speaking from your emotions. It's like, it's the channel of transitoriness, and it's about, I want a new experience. I want new experiences. So it drives us to experience, to get new experiences, right? So what the caution here is for people is to not follow this urge, right? This urge, especially if you don't have this channel yourself. Right? Because look what's activating the solar plexus is Neptune. Neptune is glamour, right? There's no clarity here. There's no clarity. So this is saying that you can be run by your emotions. A lot of people can be run by their emotions for this new cycle till January 22nd. And then it's connected to Mercury, which is about communication and thinking. So right, there's the caution just to sit back. Don't be acting on urges. Don't be reacting. Just sit back and and discern, because this is the gift here, is discern if this is correct for me or not. And that means that you're listening to your soul, right? You're listening to your intuition. You're not listening to your ego. So what's the fear, right? Every shadow has a fear. Well, the fear here is that I'll lose my power if I live from my heart, right? If I truly open my heart and live from it, then oh, that got replicated. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the belief here is that I'm safe. To right the wrong, because the shadow is incorrect, is that no one can hurt me if I'm in the heart space. So let's go just for a quick reminder of why am I on the planet? Why am I on the planet right now? Well, we're in Earth school, okay? And we're here to learn and to evolve. So this means we're transcending the plane of duality, because this is what we live in, right? This world is duality. It's opposites. There's opposites. So we live in a world of opposites. So the spiritual journey is about transcending the duality. This or that, this or that, this or that. So, and also transcending the ego, the mind, or the not self. So what's not you. Integrating unconscious fears, which are your shadows, and to live as your higher self, So this is a reminder, why am I on the planet? And then ultimately, you want to love yourself and others without conditions, right? Without conditions. Okay, so that's why you're here on the planet. And that's what my channel's all about. It's using astrology and human design with this. This is the baseline of keeping us growing and evolving and learning. So let's just talk about this ego, because the 12 is very much connected to the ego, this number 12. There can be one of 64, but the 12 is definitely connected to the ego. So what is the ego? Just quickly, it's the voice in your head you believe is you. It creates a self-image, a mental self-image, an identity that's not you. That's not you. This is the illusion, right? The ego drains your energy and keeps you out of your power, because it takes a lot of energy right here, right? A lot of energy to bolster up these ego identities, because they're false. So here's the Aquarian age consciousness is pressuring us. That's what we're going through on the planet right now, to let go of these ego identities. So you've got a core ego identity. I talk about that in my group coaching, right? But there's other identities too. So those have to fall so that you can truly be your authentic self. So the pressure that we're feeling on the planet now, and the losses and the challenges and right? It's all about we've got to let go. We have to surrender these ego identities, because they're false, right? They're not authentic. They're not true. The age of Aquarius is the age of truth. So back to this ego, okay? Drains your energy, right? Keeps you out of your power, your true power. The ego's losing power, right? The ego's losing power. The last 2,000 years have been ruled by this ego. Very destructive energy, and people would gain power through destroying, right? Destroying, well, I don't want to go into all the destruction on the planet, but we're seeing it more and more. But this ego is losing its power. And then the ego also interprets what you're seeing out in the world. So you're listening to this, you believe this voice is you, right? And then you're busy chasing its projections for happiness and peace, right? This will make you happy. This will make you peaceful. And it's fueled by emotions, So I want to remind people that problems and ego, they hold hands together. One doesn't exist without the other. The problem is this ego is the problem, the ego identity. But the ego creates problems out in the world, right? Can create problems out in the world. So they really come together, right? So if you've got a problem, I've got a problem in my life right now, you have to go inward, right? And dig out these identities that have to go. Okay, so let's look at this 12, right? So this is the new moon. It's seeding this, right? Seeding this, the shadow of self-importance. So what's the self-importance about? It's focusing way too much on this ego and not on your higher self, right? Your more evolved, your eternal self, right? So way too focused on that. That's what self-importance is. Because now, remember, everybody knows about the inflated narcissistic ego. I'm the best, right? Since sliced bread, right? I'm at the top, blah, 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 boasting and looking for credit and attention. But we have to remember the deflated ego, which is like, I'm the worst. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. I'm not right. There's other people that are way better than me. This too is self-importance. They're both ego, right? They're both ego. So using all your energy, your life force energy, your divine energy, and then throwing it at that ego, feeding it, right? Like a vampire, feeding it all your life force energy. So what does his ego tell you to do? To create a wall so no one can hurt you. So what are you creating? A wall? A wall around your heart, right? This is all about the heart. It's purity, right? This is the city. Purity is your heart consciousness. Remain secretive, right? Don't give any ammunition to that person. They'll use it against you, right? Needing to be special, needing to be a somebody. Right? So this is all our conditioning. You can look at this. It doesn't matter if you have the 12 or not, natally, right? We all have this. We're all taught to be you got to be a somebody. You got to make something out of yourself in this lifetime, right? We're taught that from day one. So here's the fear, right? Lose power if I live from my heart. I'll become a doormat. People will walk all over me, right? If I live from my heart. They'll think I'm stupid. They'll judge me for this. And it's a lot of strength, right? The heart is much, much stronger than this ego. So belief is that someone can hurt me if I bring down those walls, if I truly live from my heart. And we're being called to open the heart chakra. This is the sacred heart, Moving from third chakra consciousness into like will, power over, into the fourth chakra consciousness as a humanity, right? For the Aquarian age. So you want to be listening to this. So you move into, so here's how you do the shadow work. I just did this slide. You go inside, right? You go inside and then you spot that ego, right? You spot that ego. This takes meditation. It takes, I don't have that other slide, do I? There's the relationship between your higher self and the ego. So this is why meditation is so great. A sadhana practice is good because it builds that relationship. Like, oh, that's not me. That voice in my head isn't me, right? And so you go inside and then you spot it, right? This is the discernment, and then you spot it. You feel, because every identity comes with emotions, fuels this identity, this ego that's not you. So you feel them, feel the surfacing emotions, and then this ego identity will start to dissolve, right, into the light of your awareness. And then this in turn expands you into your higher self. And this is being peaceful and happy for no reason. That's what the expansion feels like. And this is what we all want. But we're listening to this ego that's telling us, oh, you want peace, you want happiness? Well, you got to go chase this relationship, right? You've got to go chase this career, get this title. Oh, you've got to chase the dollar. That's a big one, right? You need so many dollars in the bank, and then you can feel peaceful, right? And then you can feel happy. But that doesn't get you happiness and peace. Because it's on to the next thing. Because then the fear is you have it, you're going to lose it. This is the duality. If I have something in the external, the duality is I'm going to lose it. So the fear of losing it, or fear of not getting it, right? This is the way to go to true peace and happiness, is to go to your higher self, to your soul. This is what we're really seeking, but we've listened to this this liar in our head, deceptive liar in our head that's pointing us outside, that's keeping us on a wild goose chase, taking body after body after body, incarnation after incarnation after incarnation, with this desire of wanting peace and happiness, right? But we're looking the wrong way. We're looking the wrong direction. We have to come back to ourselves. Okay, so with the emotions coming up, right? This is, we're evolving through the emotional body. So this is getting triggered. This emotional body is getting triggered. And so the ego wants you to stop from entering the emotional body by blaming everything outside of you. This is why I'm feeling this. That person is why I'm feeling this. Right? So you're completely distracted instead of going through, right, the emotional body and evolving, right, and coming into your higher self. So again, remember that everything that we see out there, this is what's creating it. These are emotional memories that emotional triggers that are coming up, right, to be felt, This is the cause. And then the effect is some kind of circumstance or event or challenge in your life, right? Is manifested on the external, but the ego has us fixated on the physical details. I've got to control the physical details instead of like, oh, I've got to go to the root of this and go inside and feel the emotions that are coming up, right? Okay. And then we get back to the 12. We're able to communicate your feelings through your feelings. So communicating from your heart, right? And not your head. The thing is that you can speak a truth, with the words coming out of your mouth, but if it's disconnected from the heart, people aren't going to hear it, right? So it's not really a truth unless it's connected to the heart. You open your heart and you're able to see through the heart, right? You're able to see through the heart, and then you start to see your similarities with people rather than differences, right? We can see this out in the world with the identity politics. It's all about divide and conquer. You're able to see the similarities, that we are one human organism. Yes, there's diversity, but there's unity in that diversity. Like real diversity, that's our authenticity, right? It's not coming from the ego. I'm better than you, I'm worse than you. It's just I am, I'm me, right? I'm me. So know that it's you that shuts yourself off to others. So this is the other way it can work too, right? Is that, oh, that other person has walls up to me, right? And it's like, no, it's coming from you. You can only experience yourself. You can only see yourself, You're authentic and real. You love the things and people outside of you that make you feel good, like truly good, like so they nurture you, nurture your soul. Those are the people that you love. You recognize that when you're able to discern when I'm being authentic and when I'm wearing a mask, and then in turn you're able to discern others too when they're not being authentic and wearing a mask. And then you fall in love with your higher self and not your ego. A lot of people are in love with their egos, right? So this is what we're up for this new moon cycle. And then the full moon on July 3rd is in the shadow pattern of struggle and the gift of perseverance. So this is going to be quite the time until the next new moon starts, right? So it's about really, I see really that ego getting drawn out so that you can see it and experience it. But fight your own demon, right? Don't be focused on other people's demons. Like, just take it inside, right? Take it inside yourself. And look at this. And expand, right? When we're in our egos, it's so limited. We're just experiencing life in such a limited way, from the ego perspective. Okay. So when I go through the signs, I'll be able to share a lot more. me just get the comments here up. Let's see who's here. Oh, good. We got some people here. Okay. So non-peg. And Jen and Shima. Aisha, Larissa. Satnam. Abigail, Satnam. Oh, you've got unconscious Sun and Mercury are in gate 12. Yeah. Feeling the new moon heavily up. Okay. And see silly. Okay. Okay. So let's go to the signs here, and we'll see how it affects you. All right. So hopefully people are doing their shadow work, right? I can't tell you how much it will benefit you. If you're really serious, because this is freedom right here. This is freedom, feeling peaceful and happy for no reason. We all want this, but we're not going to get it without ego, right? That voice in our head that's not us. So the shadow work is the most impactful. It's like feeling. It's like one thing to see it in action. Oh, that voice in my head's not me. I can discern that. I discern that. But it's also being fueled by emotions. That's why it comes back. Those identities come back. Oh, the ego comes full force back because you haven't felt. You haven't gone to the deeper feelings that are really fueling this ego identity, right? So it's really, really... like, just try it. Like, I'm gonna do shadow work. I'm gonna really take it inside. I'm gonna restrain myself from projecting my shadow out into the world. I'm gonna see everything as a teacher. My whole life is a teacher. The people around me are my teachers, and I'm gonna keep it inside, and I'm gonna do this work. It's very, very powerful, right? Okay. Okay, so let's go to the... go back up here. And go to my overlays. There we go. So let's start with Gemini first, because it's the new moon in Gemini. Okay. And that, of course, is in your first house. So what are we discerning? The 12, right? Well, like, what's the lesson here? The lesson here is that we live, right? We live from the heart. Let's put this one up here, right? So it's about living from the heart, learning to live from the heart. And so... This is like how you show up in the world, Gemini, right? Gemini, sun, moon, or rising. It's your whole approach to life. So if your approach to life, because the 12 is in the sign of Gemini, right? So you may have this actually natally if it's around your birthday now, is showing up to life. That means that I have to shut down my heart, right? Well, the ego will say, well, because everybody else doesn't live from an open heart. Why should I? This is a dog-eat-dog world. It's competitive, this world. You got to have an edge. That's going to weaken me. Remember, Saturn is in the shadow of weakness in retrograde until November 3rd, right? So it's affecting us all. So we have to move through this kind of morphogenic field, Gemini, to like, okay, well, just because no one else is doing it doesn't mean that it's not right, you know? If I'm following the crowd, if you're following the crowd, you got to stop. You got to stop. And it's like, am I following the crowd off the cliff? Right? Am I being my authentic self? This is not a time to go unconscious, right? For any of us. So your approach to your The approach to life, this is what's keeping you separate from others, right? It will keep you separate from others when you close your heart. And I would look at, and let's see where you're 1, 2, 3. No, 12, 11, 10. Yeah. So I would look for Gemini is to take a new approach. This is the new moon, right? Take a new approach to life. I'm really just gonna try. I'm gonna experiment with this. What happens when I approach life with an open heart? What do I see reflected around me? Maybe I start to see people open up their hearts to me. Maybe I need to be the role model for that, you know? Some people, they don't know, because they're not used to it at all, you know, people with being authentic and real and speaking from their heart. But if they have one person in their life that's actually doing that and modeling that to them, part of them like relaxes and like, well, maybe that I could do that too, right? So this is a real time for you not to go into separation. Remember that the ego is all about separation. It's me and you, and we're coming into oneness. So that's what I would say to you, is like to really make a baby step. Maybe we'd start off with people that you trust, like your friends, you know, your trusted friends or family, that I'm really going to speak from my heart. I'm not going to censor myself. I'm going to be vulnerable. And I'm going to see. And then this is the discernment. You're going to be able to discern, right? The people in your life, right? How are they receiving this? How are they receiving me, right? What else do I want to say about that? And you've got Venus and Leo in the 3rd house, so that's really going to help your communication. Venus always gifts, right? But it's saying to be mindful with your communication and your words, right? So Gemini is very heady in the head. It's like to drop down into your heart before you speak. That's a good rule for everybody, right? Before I communicate, right? I'm going to drop into my heart first. I'm going to feel that other person with my heart, right? And then you're going to be able to discern are they going to be open to my words or not, right? Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Gemini? Yeah. And just back to discernment. Discernment, am I wearing a mask? Am I wearing a mask? Am I being inauthentic, or am I being my true self? Right? This is what you're going to discover through this new moon. Right? And the great thing is that the people in the universe will reflect that back to you. If you're being your authentic self, you're rewarded. Yeah, there's going to be people that are going to be resistant to that, especially if they're not being themselves, but there's other people that will really appreciate it. Yeah. Okay. So not communicating from the ego, communicating from the heart. That's the discernment. Okay. Let's go to Taurus here. Taurus. So Taurus, of course, is in the 2nd house, the shadow of self-importance. Yeah. This is money, right? Money and finances and survival. So this is about keeping your heart open and letting go of attachment, right? With the ego attached, because wherever the ego goes, there's the attachment, right? This is what the self-importance is. I'm attached to my money. Like Gemini will be attached to the body and the appearance, right? Attached to the body and the appearance. There can be too much focus on that for Gemini, right? Too much focus on money for Taurus, right? And keeping your heart closed. Yeah. Let's see here. So the ego attachment to money and conflating that with self-worth and self-esteem, self-worth, self-value, all those self-words. And this keeping your heart closed, especially if you're having money issues, right? Keeping your heart closed. Okay. Let me see here. Okay. Okay. What else do we have for Taurus here? Just listening too much to the ego about your finances and how to earn money, like relying too much on the ego and not your divine self, because we're really being called to surrender right now into our divinity. So taking our authority from the ego, because a lot of us have had this authority, right, and we see it out in the external world too, is to shifting that to the divine as our authority. So putting your trust, like the ego's got to go out and hustle and hassle and make things happen and being competitive, and I'm doing everything, like listening to the ego saying that to you, instead of just surrender and knowing that the divine is taking care of everything for me. I just have to show up as myself, as my authentic self. Yeah. So that would be like letting go of this self-importance. So the discernment would be just a good way to discern. This word discernment is to go inside and how you feel, right? Am I feeling peaceful? Am I feeling happiness? Am I feeling the spaciousness inside me? No, I feel constricted. I feel stressed. I feel anxious. I'm worrying. Well, then you're in the ego, right? So you can trust your feelings, Taurus, here. But in my spaciousness, I'm in trust. Okay, this is where I want to be. I want to be in this space. And then I can attract, right? I can attract and magnetize what I need to be materially, right? Through the divine. But you're not going to attract, if you're this, you're just going to attract more scenarios that are going to make you even more stressed out and more constricted so that you can feel it, right? So let's go back to how to work with this ego, right? Is you're going to see it, you're going to spot it, and with the worry, and what am I going to do, right? And shallow breathing, right? Then you see it, but it doesn't stop with seeing it. You got to feel it. So, okay, I'm going to feel this stuff inside of me, right? All this gunk that's jamming me up, that's jamming the flow, the material flow coming to me. I'm going to stop. I'm going to feel, right? And then it's like, I feel the fear. And then, right? And then the sadness and the grief. And then you start crying, right? And whatever insights come usually after this. And then you expand. You're expanding more into a trust state, right? And then you let go of this ego identity. Like, I'm worthy just as I am. I don't have to be do. I can just be myself, and I'm being supported, right, by the divine materially. A lot of us are going through this fear, right? All the signs, right? Okay. So that's my hot tip for Taurus. Okay. Anything else for Taurus? And 1, 2, 3, 4. And you've got Venus in the 4th house. That's going to really help you with your emotions, if you just stop and surrender, right? And not trying to control. Because what you're trying to do is you just kind of control your fear on the external. You might as well just feel the fear. Okay. Okay. So let's go for, because we're going backwards, Aries. Okay. Aries. Okay. So this is Aries, Sun, Moon, and Rising, right here. And so we've got the new moon in the shadow of self-importance in your third house. In your third house. So this is all about communication, right? So this is communicating. You want to discern, am I communicating from my heart? Or this is the lesson for you for till July 3rd, or am I communicating from this ego, right? How am I communicating? So this is like a real lesson. Am I self-important in my communication? Is it all, it's all about, you listen to some people talk, sometimes Aries, and all they're saying, and you could reduce it to like, I know this. I know more than you. No, I know more than you. And this is why. And this back and forth. This is the ego communicating, right? I'm better than you. Or the ego is like, you need to validate. You need to validate my point of view. That's the communication that goes on with the ego. There's no juice there. It's just head, right? Ego. Juice is when you come into the heart, when you communicate from the heart, because there's truth there, right? It's a frequency that's coming from your heart. So that's what I would say with what you're learning to discern is like, what happens when I speak from my head? What happens when I speak from my ego? Oh, well, there's conflict around me. People react to me, right? They try to argue with me. They gossip about me. It creates more division. Do you see that? When you speak from the ego, it just creates more division because that's what the ego is all about, is divide. The heart is unity. It brings us together, right? It brings us together. We focus on our similarities and not our differences when you communicate from your heart. So you're going to be in a big lesson with Gemini, right? Or the new moon in Gemini, new moon in the shadow of self-importance, and the gift of discernment. So this is how we learn, right? We live in a plane of duality, discernment. There's this and then there's this. And so you can't just be taught this. Like I can't just say this to you and you're going to receive it and, oh yeah. No, you got to go have an experience of it. And then it's yours. It's not yours until you experience it, until you digest it, right? And you digest the teaching, right, fully, and that's by having an experience of it, and then it's yours, and nobody can take it away from you. So that's what I would say with Aries, to really look at their communication, how they communicate with others, how they communicate with their siblings, because the third house rules the siblings, and then just your day-to-day, the people that you see day-to-day, right? And you're going to notice a difference. When I communicate it from my heart, things go smoothly. Then that's reflected back from the external. But it takes a little bit of vulnerability, Aries, right? To like, okay, I'm just going to make an effort just to speak from my heart. Whatever impulse is coming from my heart, those are the words. And the thing is with... because the ego can say, well, you're going to sound like an idiot, if you don't have everything scripted in your head first, right? But with the heart, when you go fully into your heart and communicate from your heart, the heart organizes the words, right? There's a language there that's just natural and it's true, right? And it's in the frequency of truth. So to trust that. Anything else for Aries? Okay. Well, remember, you got Saturn. If you haven't watched the Saturn video, go back and watch that, Aries. Moving through your 12th house. So there's something that's finishing up, right? Your definition, Saturn is showing you what truly is weak. And what truly is weak is when you lean on this ego, right? That's weakness. And strength is when you're moving into your heart, more and more into your heart. Okay. Okay. Let's go 1616. And let's go to Pisces. All the way to the end. Pisces. So Pisces has the new moon in the shadow of self-importance and the gift of discernment and purity in the 4th house. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's the home, it's the mother, it's your emotional self, your emotional self. So this is about discerning what is nurturing you emotionally, what nurtures you emotionally, right? It's a very nurturing house. So, and also about discerning, like even to take it practically, discerning who you welcome into your home. What energies do you allow in your home, and what energies do you, right? So the thing is with a lot of, in Pisces, you may relate to this, is that, we're spiritual people, we're supposed to love everybody. Yeah, that's true, right? Our goal is that everybody in the world is our pal. That's where we want to be. Everybody is my friend, no matter if they're a demon. They're all my friends, right? They're all my friends. But it doesn't mean you have to trust. You know, you can love someone and not trust them. That's the discernment, right? So Pisces is not so good with boundaries, right? So this is the discernment and bringing them into your home, right? What energies are you bringing into your home? Like to discern that. This is your sanctuary, right? This is how we consume energy, right? Our energy of our home, that's our sanctum, right? And even take that further. Who do I let into my heart? Well, I'm going to learn how to discern that now, right? I'm not just going to let anybody into my heart. I'm going to discern that energy, but it doesn't mean that I don't love them, right? So do you see that there's the fine little detail here to get? And you'll feel it. Like, here's the experiment. Take this, right? Digest this. Have the experience of it. Like, what does it feel like to let this person into my home? Because my mind and my ego says I should, because that I'm a good person. This is the mental concepts. Remember that I talked about with the ego. What's the ego? The ego creates a self-image and identity. Well, maybe the self-image and identity is spiritual person. That's spiritual ego. I'm a spiritual person, so this means that I have to be compassionate. I have to be loving towards everybody. I have to give everything away, right? I have to welcome everybody into my home. I welcome everybody who has a need, right? A need. And so there's the self-image that the ego is telling you. And then the discernment's going to show you something else. This is taking your trust from the ego to your divinity. And your divinity will let you know, right? No, this doesn't feel right to me. It's not aligned with me. This is the discernment. This frequency is not aligned with me. No, I can't let you. I'll meet you somewhere else, or I'll set a boundary. Right? No, I'm not going to let you into my heart because, right, I don't trust you. You don't need to say that to them, but, right? This is about you valuing yourself and what nurtures you emotionally. So you'll know, your feelings will let you know, right? So remember with the shadow work, right, is you'll spot that ego telling you this, right? You should. You always like, you should do this. But then you're going to feel those surfacing emotions that come up, right? So maybe it's guilt comes up, right? Maybe some guilt comes up. Well, you feel that. You feel that till the end. Maybe you start to feel grief Because, oh my God, I've operated from this ego for so long. We keep feeling it and feeling and feeling till the end. And that gets you to the other side. That's your authentic self. And that's where you're peaceful and happy for no reason, right? So that's what I see is happening there. And I would also go to your mother, Pisces, if we go back, rewind back to your family of origin, that you may have received some like bad teaching from your mother, right, on this. Maybe she wasn't good with boundaries, right? And so you took that on. And the other thing I want to say too with the heart, once you drop into your heart too, the heart's very discerning. You can trust your heart. Your heart will discern what's correct for you and what's not, right? So this is all about you valuing your home, right? Your outer home, and then your home inside. Okay. Anything else for Pisces? Oh, it's interesting, right? With this 12. Because there's the fear I'll lose my power if I live from my heart. Right? And you're actually going to gain power when you live from your heart, when you go into that discernment. That discernment. Yeah. Okay. So let's go for Aquarius here. Aquarius, where's the Aquarius? Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Okay. So for Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, you've got the new moon is in your 5th house, in the 5th house. And so this is self-love, it's self-expression, it's joy. So this is about the new moon's planting something. And once it plants something, here's how it works, Aquarius. Once it plants something, right, especially around this lesson of discernment in your heart, what happens is everything that's not that pops up. Right? Everything that's not that pops up. This is how we discern. We live in the plane of duality. Oh, that thing that used to give me so much joy and pleasure doesn't work for me anymore. Doesn't work. No, this doesn't give me joy and pleasure. All my friends love to do that, or my partner loves to do this. You know what? It's not really my bag. I'd rather spend time on my own. I'd rather be in solitude for a while. That's my idea of a good time. You know, so you're just discerning what's correct for you in terms of what gives you joy and pleasure and creativity. This is about loving yourself. The 5th house, loving yourself. Right, and then you've got Saturn in your 2nd house. It's working on your self-worth. Right, it's totally working on your self-worth. So this will really help you with the new moon. This is going to help your Saturn in the 2nd house in retrograde, because it's going to show you, oh no, this is what I really enjoy to do, right? This is how I want to express myself. But sometimes it takes being alone on your own for a while to discern what's you, right? What's my frequency? What's another person's frequency? What's me? What's authentic to me? What's my authentic frequency? Right? To learn that. And opening up your heart to that. Your heart's going to show you, right, what gives you joy. And also because it's your if you have children, Aquarius, to open up your heart to your children. Take down the walls around your children. But what I really feel is you're taking your walls down to yourself, right? I'm taking my walls down to myself. I'm not going to be living in that ego, with that ego anymore. I'm going to expand into my higher self. I'm not going to wall myself up, right? I'm just walling myself up with my ego and listening to my ego that's telling me this is what is joy for you, and not when it's not at all, right? This is what gives you pleasure, right? The ego, and it doesn't work for you anymore, right? You're going to know, you're going to be able to discern, and maybe it's time to drop away some of these habits that you've had, that you've taken on through your conditioning, because it's the 5th house, your conditioning. But it's married with the self-worth issue, so just keep that in mind, right? Saturn is still working on you, retrograde until November 3rd. Coming more into equality. But it's going to be communication, right? Self-expression for Aquarius. Yeah. And I always say, get out the journal, Aquarius. Get out the journal and start being honest in your expression. Okay. Anything else for Aquarius? And you'll have, just because you've got Venus transiting for the next 4 months in your 7th house, that your partner will help, right? It's Venus. They'll be supportive. And whatever what you're going through, your process of learning right now, you'll be supported by your partner, which is always a blessing, right? To have your partner as your ally and not your. I mean, there's no enemies, but more of an adversary. It's better to have like the ally than the adversary. Okay. Okay. So let's go for Capricorn. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising. And this is happening in your 6th house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the 6th house for Capricorn. So the new moon in self-importance. Shadow of self-importance in your 6th house. So this is about work and health and service. It's also your mental health. And this is how, closing your heart, you're going to discern what happens to my health, Capricorn. What happens to my health when I start to live from an open heart? When I take down those walls, what happens? What happens to my health? What happens to my mental health and my physical health, right? What happens when I start to let that divine energy in, right? Coming through my heart chakra, letting that love come in. Like, what happens? What happens in my workplace when I do that? 6th house is also workplace. The people that I work with, what happens? So remember, with the gift of discernment, you're having an experience, right? You're having an experience of this. So experiment with this. Like I said, it's not enough in the Aquarian age. It's not enough to just like, oh, it's mental. It's a mental teaching. Things get better with my health when I open my heart. It's not enough with the Aquarian age. So you have to have the experience. So you have the experience. You try it out. And then it's yours. Nobody can take that away from you. I've had the experience of what happens to my mental health, my physical health, when I open up my heart, right? When I take down those walls. Nobody's going to hurt me, right? If I take down those walls. My heart knows. My heart chakra is very protective. The aura of the heart is huge. It's very protective, the heart chakra aura. And also what happens to problems, because the 6th house is also the house of problems. What happens to my problems? Remember what I told you about the ego. Problems and ego, they hold hands. They're twins, problems and ego. Ego's driving the car and the problem's right there in the passenger seat. They travel together, these two. Ego creates problems. Right? The ego creates problems. But the real problem, if you look at it, is the ego identity. So what happens when I open up my heart, when I take down those walls, where I'm not walled up with the ego anymore, when I really open myself up to people? What happens to my problems? Well, chances are they're going to start to dissolve just on their own, right? This is when we can experience kind of miracles, you know? Like Course in Miracles says, we got to become more miracle-minded, you know? That weird health problem that I've had, right? Maybe some throat stuff, because you got Saturn in the third house. Some throat stuff, right? Just disappeared. I didn't have to run to a doctor. Just like the next day, it was gone when I really what did I do? I really opened my heart the other day, and all this stuff just kind of disappeared, right? So problems can dissolve along with this ego identity, right? In the ego, you'll notice this even with people, Capricorn. People are addicted to having problems. Why are they addicted to having problems? Because they're addicted to that ego, and the ego always needs a problem, always needs a conflict, right? So watch this. Remember how you deal with the shadow, Capricorn, is you spot it. Oh, there's my ego telling me I got a problem, right? I solved one problem, and here I got another problem. It never ends, right? Because it's keeping this ego alive is the problems. So maybe start to tell yourself, I got no problems. Maybe that's your mantra. I've got no problems, right? For the sixth house. So remember, you got to spot it, but then you got to feel, Capricorn, the emotions, because there's emotions that fuel this ego. And just watch how people talk around you when you start to open up your heart, right? A lot of people, we want to connect. We want to connect with one another, but people think the only way of connecting is through negativity or through talking about their problem. I got this problem. Well, no, that's nothing. I got this problem. That's nothing. I had that problem 10 years ago, right? They talk about problems, but really they're talking from their ego back and forth, right? So, and anyone you have a conflict with, right? Because that's a house of conflict too. So anyone you have a conflict with in your external world, try to speak from your heart with them or about them, right? Don't demonize them, right? And once we open up our hearts, we start to see people through heart, right? Through our hearts. What do we see? We see our similarities with people. We don't see our differences, right? Okay. What else here? Anything else for Capricorn? Okay. So let's go for Sagittarius. Sun, Moon, or Rising Sagittarius. So the new moon in the shadow of self-importance is in your 7th house. And this is all about your relationships. So this is about looking at how it affects you. So let's look at it the other way, to like turn the table here. That how does it affect you when people relate to you from a closed heart? When they're being cold, they're not being compassionate. How does it affect you, right? What does it do to you? What emotions come up for you? Remember, we're evolving through the emotional body, Sagittarius, right? I feel rejected. I feel abandoned. I feel ashamed. Whatever it is, this is your work, right? Remember, with the emotional trigger, Sagittarius, the emotions are creating everything that we see in the external. And the effect are those surface physical details. Oh, my partner rejected me. They were really, really cold to me. They were snippy. They weren't compassionate. I was going through a hard time and they were so cold. That's the effect, right? The cause is coming from your emotional body. Whatever emotions are coming up to be integrated. that's the cause, right? So you don't get caught up on the details of your partner, 7th house. You take it inside. I'm not going to let my ego lash out, right? And build walls, right, towards that other person, right? Listen to this ego. Well, they're going to hurt me. They're not going to hurt me again. I'm putting up the walls. It's like, no, you want to take down the walls, right? And then you want to feel. You want to take it inside and you want to feel what's coming up. The emotional content of your experience, right? Not getting fixated on the physical details. Because that's where the ego wants you to be. Doesn't want you to evolve and grow, right? And to be peaceful and happy for no reason. Wants you in conflict, right? So, yeah. So that's your work to do, this discernment, right? The discernment. And it's discerning the other person in you, right? This is the other person. God can work, the divine can work through anybody for our healing. But sometimes it's like, you know, when you start to look through your heart, you're going to see the partner as, oh, the partner went through a hard time that day, and I didn't know that. There's misunderstanding, right? They went through a hard time. They weren't present for me because they had stuff going on in their life. Like, don't take it personally, Sagittarius. You know? Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else for Sagittarius? Yeah. Venus is in your 9th house, so this is perfect. The 9th house, so Venus gifts wherever it goes. So this is about expanding your how you see people, right, in your relationships. But that's just a good rule of thumb for us all. It's don't take things personally, right? Just use it. Go inside and use that energy, right, to heal and evolve and grow. Okay. And let's go for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising. And that's going to be in the 8th house. The 8th house. So this is transformation, huge transformation. It's the subconscious mind. Codependency. Can be codependency too. These are the deep psychological traumas that want to be transformed. Right? And that's your house anyway, Scorpio, so you know this. So this is about you learning to receive, right? This new moon, right? So not getting trapped in the ego, I can't receive. I'm gonna put up walls around me so that I don't get hurt. I don't want intimacy, right? That's the house of intimacy too. And I'm not going to receive, right? Because I don't want to get hurt again. Or I feel like I don't deserve it. I don't deserve love. All this stuff's going to come up, right? To be clear. And the discernment is like, how much of this trauma and problems have come from this ego in my relationships? How much misunderstanding did I believe? You know, those lies from that ego, how much have I believed that in the past and sabotaged my relationships, right? And my ability to receive. Well, I listened to that ego that told me they're being manipulative or they're talking behind my back or they're cheating on me or whatever the story is, and you're going to find out it wasn't true. None of it was true because you were listening to that. You weren't listening to your higher self. So it's this discernment of this voice of my ego versus the voice of my intuition and my soul, like discerning those two. Yeah. And just making that commitment, no matter what. Because the thing is, we get hurt. People get hurt, We're humans. We get hurt in relationships. But that's no reason to make that decision to close down your heart. Because who are you hurting? You're just hurting yourself, right? You're closing yourself off. Remember Scorpios, you guys are deep, right? Deep, 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 watery, emotional sign. You want the full gamut of all the emotions. You got to feel all of the emotions, right? The good and the bad, all of them, right? But you need to have your heart open throughout this process. So if you even make that commitment, you know what? Maybe there's another relationship coming, right? And you make that commitment to yourself. Well, I'm going to keep my heart open. Right? I may get really, really hurt again, but I'm going to keep my heart open, right? Because that's my power. This 8th house, right? Power. My power is in my heart, right? Being open. That's my true power, my authenticity. As soon as you close down your heart, you're with this. You're with the ego, right? We need our heart to listen to our intuition. Right? Our heart's the Google translator of our intuitive guidance. We need it. We're crippled without our hearts open, you know? So this is the choice, right? Am I going to be with my ego, right? Am I going to marry my ego, or am I going to marry myself and my heart and be authentic in this lifetime? Yeah. That's what I see there. And Saturn is coming through the 5th house, right? So that can delay pleasure and joy. And so you could be going through a big dark night of the soul, just with the 8th house, but just to trust until July 3rd, right? That you're going through some kind of transformation, and it's around your relationships and intimacy, you know, and opening up your heart. Because this is for you, right? It's for you. You don't want to close your heart to yourself. Okay. Anything else for Scorpio? No. Okay. Let's go for Libra. Libra. 12, 11, 10, 9. Okay, so Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising. The shadow of self-importance is in your 9th house. 12, 11, 10, 9. In your 9th house. And so this is all about your worldview, how you see the world, right? It's all about expansion and spiritual wisdom. It's about your beliefs. So right there, your belief system, right? And it's the belief system, that's a strong belief here. Someone can hurt me if I bring down those walls around my heart. If I close myself off to people, right? That I'll be safe. That's listening to this ego. And the fear here is I'll lose power if I live from my heart. I'll lose power if I live from my heart. So this new moon is saying it's time to expand, right? So remember that ego keeps us a very limited. As soon as we're leaning on our ego and relying on our ego, we're going to see the ego through the ego's eyes. You're going to see your world through the ego's eyes, which is very, 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 very limited, you know? It's being in your animal self, Libra, right? Competitive, and I got to do everything, and hustle and hassle, and everybody's out to get me, predator, prey, right? This plane of duality that we live in, but it's not the truth, right? We're here, remember why we're here on this planet. We're here to transcend the plane of duality, the world of opposites, which is, this is how the ego sees. It sees in polarity. That person is a threat or an obstacle to where I want to go, because the ego has all these projections, right? Has you busy chasing its projections of like, this will make you happy, this will make you peaceful, right? So I come across a person, they're either an obstacle, threat, or they're an ally to get me to where I want to go. That's how they see people. You're using, right? Using people. It's not love, right? Well, you're here to transcend this plane of duality. You're here to transcend the ego and the mind and the not self, right? It's to live as your higher self. That's why you're here, right? And then this is the peace that we all want. And Libras know this. You want peace, right? Peace and happy for no reason. Peace and happy just being who you are, your authentic self. Not listening to the promises of this liar in your head, right? Deceptive, manipulative liar. That's the ego. Well, you just need the relationship, that perfect relationship or that perfect job or all that money or that home, whatever it's got you chasing, and then you'll be peaceful and happy. And it doesn't work that way. As soon as you get that, remember the plane of duality, as soon as I get something from the external, it means I'm going to lose it. This is the duality. So I'm fear, I get it, now I fear that I'm going to lose it, or I fear that I'm not going to get it, you know? So you're like a ping pong ball with the ego's playing ping pong with you. You're just going back and forth, right? So this is like a big shift in your belief system that's being called for this new moon, right? And so it can seem huge, you know, when we start to embrace new beliefs that nobody can hurt me. Nobody can hurt me, my eternal self. Nothing can touch my eternal self. It was never born, will never die, right? So nobody can hurt me. So don't be listening to the ego saying that somebody can hurt me, right? If I let down my walls, if I really live from my heart. So you're discerning. Now it's like I'm discerning. That belief pattern that I've maybe taken on from my ancestors, it's not even mine, right? It's not true. It's not true, Libra. So you're being called to expand into this purity, the purity of your heart, right? And also when you open up your heart too, because this is spiritual wisdom, this is downloads, right? This is the higher mind, the ninth house, is you're opening yourself up to that, to downloads, to spiritual wisdom, right? To complete expansion. And it's just transcending this ego. So ask yourself, oh, is this true? Has this really worked for me, closing my heart off to other people? Has that really worked and kept me safe? You know, when I'm a little bit lonely, I don't feel juiced up, right? I don't have those juicy connections with people, right? Again, inside is going to show you. Maybe I feel sad, maybe I feel depressed about that. Well, you fear it, you feel it, right? You feel it. And so it's really rewiring, right? Rewiring how your mind works and how you see the world. And so you want to expand your worldview by opening your heart and living from your heart. And again, just have the experience, try it out, see what happens. And it's good you've got Leo going through your 11th house, which is your friendships and your network. So Venus, gifts, whatever is there. So you're going to have friends, like real friends to help you that you can trust. It's like, okay, I can trust these friends. I'm going to really open my heart to them. I'm not going to listen to my ego saying, keep your cards close to your chest. I'm just going to really open my heart up, see what happens. And this will shift your belief, right? How you see people. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. Okay. Anything else for Libra? Anything else for Libra? No. Okay. Let's go for Virgo, sun, moon, or rising. And You've got it in your 10th house, of course. Yeah, 12, 11, 10. So Virgo, Sun, or Moon, or Rising has the new moon and the shadow of self-importance in their 10th house. Right? So that's your position. That can be your position in society, your reputation, your career. It could also represent your father or a father figure in your life, right? So this is the discernment here is when I close my heart, how does that affect my career, my social standing, my community, how I'm perceived in the community? And you've also got Saturn in the 7th house. So if you haven't watched my Saturn retrograde video, the last one, go and watch that. And so there may be a connection, right, with this not feeling supported by your partner, who may be like a father, a parental type figure as well, right? More of a patriarch, right? Doesn't matter if they're male or female. They may have that patriarchal energy, like the authority over you, right? And closing your heart to them. What does that do, right? What does that do when I close my heart to my partner or my boss? Could be your boss too. Someone in a position of authority, or my father. What happens? Well, they're gonna react to that, aren't they? Right? They too will put the walls up around their heart. Well, she's being really walled off and protective and not being very open and secretive. I better do the same. I better not trust her either, right? It takes just one person. Like, I'm going to take down the walls, and I'm going to be vulnerable with this person. I'm going to speak from my heart, right? And then you'll see what happens. And often, most times in my experience, it's been really well received, right? It's really, really well received because people are hungry for this. This is the experience they want. Like, let's go back to the transit chart here. This 3536, the channel of transitoriness, this is about having new experiences. People want new experiences that take them to their hearts, right? When you speak from your heart and you operate from your heart and you live from your heart, it's like a breath of fresh air, right? Like when your house is all stagnant energy, and then you throw open the window and you let the breeze come in, and that's what it feels like for people. It's so fresh, right? It's so fresh. And then it gives them a space to open up their hearts too. So Virgo, I would look at this kind of father authority type figure and how you have your closed heart. And I would also go to your family of origin, because this could go back to your relationship with your father, right? And you're just reenacting that with these other people, remember, with the emotional trigger, right? The emotions are what's creating everything, and the effect is what we see on the external. So if you have issues around a father type figure, boss, person of authority, this could even be the government too, they take this position too, is to go back and, like, what are the emotions here? Well, I was really hurt. And I learned to put walls around my heart at a very young age, and this is just how I relate to authority figures. Maybe you're fine with your friends, Virgo. Oh, I'm fine with my friends, and right, or my children if I have children, but somebody really triggers this in me, and look at the pattern. Oh, they're always in a position of authority. It could even be a policeman or policewoman, something like that. I turn into this child again, right? Well, you have to go back to the cause. Like, what are the emotions? It could be, I was hurt, I was fearful. right? There could be a memory from childhood where I was really open, because we're born open-hearted, right, as children, and then our conditioning is like to close that heart down, to cope, right? So this could be coming up for you to integrate and to heal and to walk through that emotional body to the other side, into your spiritual adulthood. That's what spirit awareness is, right? Yeah. The other thing I want to say too is that to tell yourself, because sometimes it's like, oh, I'm going to really open up my heart to this person, but there's an expectation, right? There's an expectation. Oh, I expect that other person to take care of me emotionally. I'm vulnerable, but I want that person to take care of me emotionally, right? So what you need to realize is, like, I'm going to open up my heart and I'm going to speak the truth from my heart, but I'm going to take care of my heart. I'll take care of my heart. I'm not going to expect that other person to take care of me, like, emotionally, because you have no control over what their experience of you will be, right? But as long as you make that commitment, I'm going to take care of myself, right? Then that's really, really positive, because the 10th house is all about taking responsibility for yourself too, right? Yeah. So you may be called this new moon cycle, Virgo, to up your game, to become more of a spiritual adult and out of the child position, right? Yeah. So you're not going to lose your power if you live from your heart, right? That's the fear. And nobody can take your power away. You can only give it away. So you make that commitment. I'm not going to give my power away, right? So this is the discernment that you're learning, and the purity of your heart. And have that experience of, like, when I operate from my heart, what happens? What happens around me? What happens to my environment? What happens with these people that I usually have a lot of conflict with, right? Because it's the 7th house, Saturn in your 7th house. Yeah. Okay, let's go for Leo. Sun, Moon, or Rising for Leo. And that is in your 10th house, or your 11th house, sorry. So Leo has the shadow of self-importance. The new moon's in the shadow of self-importance in the 11th house. So this is friends, right? It's friends. Your network of people, right? So this could be network of people, like on the internet too, not just 3D people. It's also the house of hopes, right, too. So opening up your heart to your friends in your network of people. So, right, remember this shadow, Leo, wants you to build walls. So listening to the ego, that I'm safe if I wall myself up, right? I don't open myself up to my friends. And Leo rules the heart. So this is really not good for you. It's not good for your health, right? And it will affect your health, your heart. That's the other thing too, like heart palpitations or pain in your heart. That's all a symptom of that you're not living from your heart. You're not receiving or giving from your heart, because you need to receive too from the heart, the back of the heart chakra, and then give from the front of the heart. So remaining secretive with your friends, not giving them any ammunition, right? This is the ego. Don't tell them that. They don't need to know that. They'll use this against you down the road. Yeah. Being defensive and guarded with your friends, right? So this is what you want to let go of, right? And start to operate from an open heart. and see what happens with your friends and your network of people, right? So the discernment, what are you learning? The discernment, right? So also discerning who your friends are too and who aren't your friends, right? So this again, I forget what other sign he said this, to your feelings and how you feel inside is a good way of measuring and discerning, like the energy, like how do I feel around these friends, these particular people? How do I feel around these other particular people? And your feelings will let you know, right? Do I feel love? Do I feel love? Do I feel spacious inside? Or do I feel like, oh, I don't feel so good, right? I feel drained after spending time with these people. Well, that's the discernment that you're learning. So it's really this shadow of self-importance for all the signs. It's to move away from this ego. Not letting the ego, remember? Not letting the ego interpret your experience, right? Because the ego is in duality. It's this or that, good or bad, right? That's the interpretation. You want to be transcending this. You want to be transcending this. And we transcend this by this discernment, like discerning. So it's not a judgment. Do you see the difference? Like discernment's not a judgment. Oh, these people are really bad and evil, and these ones are really, really good, and they're angels over here. That's not discernment, that's judgment. Discernment is coming from the heart. It's coming from the heart. And it's not a this or that per se. It's not like discernment's not a this or that per se. It's coming from self-love. It's like what's aligned. Self-love is like what's aligned with this energy, this divine energy within me. What's aligned, right? And what's not, right? The discernment. What's not, what's more aligned with this ego, right? The discernment between you, the soul, what you need, and then the ego. That's the discernment. What's pure, right? And your heart will let you know. Your heart will let you know. Your intuition will let you know. And then, like I said before, it doesn't mean that you don't love everybody. You can love everybody, but it's about trust, right? The discernment's about the trust. Yeah. So maybe you're headed for some new friends coming in that are more aligned with you, you know? So open up your heart to that, right? Open up your heart to that. Okay. And it's also connected to, because Saturn is in your 8th house, and this is about receive. It's about receiving. So you may feel like, oh, my friends, my network, they're not giving to me. I'm giving so much and they're not giving to me. And the ego will like do a tit for tat. Well, you don't give them then. They're not giving to you, then you don't give to them. And the heart is like the sun. It just gives, right? It just gives. It just gives divine energy, right? But it knows what to give to. It knows what to give to. Yeah. And it knows where it's being wasted. And this is usually involves the ego, right? Yeah. So don't go for tit for tat. Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Leo? For self-importance in there? I would also mention too with with friendship, if you're seeing the ego in other people, to watch that, right? That's a sign that you're in your ego. If you're just relating to everybody else oh, I see their ego. I see what they're doing, right? That's a sign that you too are also in your ego. You want to be relating to people from this sense of purity, like your higher selves, seeing the higher self in other people too. This will really help. And this is seeing people through the heart. You'll automatically see people, their true self, their authentic self, rather than the ego, because this limits people. As soon as you limit somebody in that way, you're limiting yourself, right? We see who we are, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Okay. Anything else for Leo? Okay. And then you've got Venus in your first house, so that's a big gift too. But how you show up in the world. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to... Yeah. Finally, I got some feedback here. Elizabeth Light. So maybe pain in the back of the heart is not receiving. That's true. Yeah. Are you a Leo? Yeah. So our body is a beautiful thing because it really it's communicating to us where our energy is stuck. So if you have pain in the back of the heart chakra, right? That's a significator that you're not receiving. You're not receiving. There's some bright, I'm not deserving of this, or whatever psychology is behind it. But you don't need to. You look no further than this ego, right? Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Cancer. Whoops, that's Virgo. Cancer, sun, moon, or rising. Yeah. And Cancer's got this in the 12th house. So the new moon is in the 12th house for Cancer, and the shadow of self-importance. So this goes way, way back for Cancer. Way, way back, right? So all the lifetimes of having your heart walled up. Maybe that's why you were born a Cancer in this lifetime, right? Cancer, sun, moon, or rising. So that you learn more about the heart, learn more about your emotions, right? So this can make you isolate, Cancer, right? I'm just going to isolate. I'm just going to hide away. I'm going to stay at home. I'm not going to deal with people, right? Not going to deal with people. I've been hurt so many times. I've been hurt in the past. But this is coming from deep from your past lives that needs to be cleared up, right? That it's okay to come out of your shell as a Cancer, right? And to live from my heart. This is a different world. That's what I want to say to people. It's changed so much, right? Even in the last, since 2020 for sure. But people are hungry for this now, right? People are openly talking about spirituality. People that have never talked about spirituality before are talking about spirituality. People are hungry for this. We've had enough of living in this world of most people on the planet with a closed heart chakra, right? Living from their ego, right? Channeling the ego, that voice in their head. They want something different, and Cancer is the embodiment of that, of caring and nurturing, right? So it's time to tell yourself like that. The world is different now. It's not like it was in my past lives, and even in this lifetime, that people are ready for this. I'm not going to lose power if I live from my heart. I can be vulnerable, right? I don't need to remain secretive and private, right? Cancers are very secretive and private anyway. But they're in the 12th house. I don't need to be isolated in solitude and feeling hopeless, right? What you're doing, because that's a house of escape, right? Is you're escaping from yourself. You're not escaping from the world or people. You're escaping from yourself, right? So there can be addictions and stuff too with the 12th house. And then you've got 12, 11, 10. Yeah, you've got Saturn in your ninth house. So Saturn is working on you to get out of this pessimism, right? To get out of this pessimistic viewpoint or over-idealistic viewpoint. So there can be like, you know, if you look at like, well, I'm overly idealistic. This is how I want people to be, right? I want people to be there now. I want us to be peaceful and harmonious and nurturing, and I want all that now, right? And then Saturn is like, so there's an expectation. That's what I wanted to say. So the ego has that expectation. Well, people aren't like this, like your idealistic version of ninth house Saturn, right? And now I'm going to isolate, and I get all hopeless again. So swinging the back and forth, when you need to know you're part of the solution, Cancer, because you're born a Cancer, you know, to be out there in the world with the walls down and knowing that you can protect yourself and take care of yourself, right? Just too, because it's in the 12th house, there could be past life memory of being, you know, put away because you were too sensitive or whatever. These are all these fears, right? These are all the fears that are coming up. Remember, we're evolving through our emotional body, Cancer. So whatever's coming up for this new moon cycle, right, until July 3rd, what's coming up for me? Why so much fear and terror? I don't know where it's coming from. It's coming from your past lives. You don't need to know the story, right? The ego wants the story. All you have to do is just feel it. Just feel all those emotions, right? And then this ego identity will start to dissolve. That's telling you need to isolate. You need to keep your cards close to your chest, right? You're not safe there. People will hurt you, right? This will start to dissolve. But it really takes, this is the work right here, is the emotional body work, right? Just to feel it till the end. And then you're on the other side. That's your higher self, your eternal self, right? So it's a process. It's a continual process, right? To not listen to that ego and to keep doing the emotional work. What's coming up for me today? My job is just to feel it. I feel it till the end. Okay, what's coming up for me now? The next day and the next day, right? It's a process. So I just see there's a lot of support. I don't even know your natal chart, right? I'm just looking at Cancer, generally speaking. You've got a lot of support. Yeah, here. And then this is the discernment. I'm discerning that ego's voice from the voice of my intuition, right? 12th house it's a spiritual house. It's intuition, right? Getting in touch with your intuitive guidance, not listening to this ego anymore. And Saturn is there in the 9th house, right? Like expanding that for you if you do the work, the emotional work. Okay. Yeah. I got some people here, Larissa and Robret. Yeah. Yeah. Not to isolate. And it's so tempting. I understand it. It's tempting. But you know what? When you do go out and about, it's good. It's like the divine kind of uses you, right? Like, oh, look, right? Larissa's outside today. She's got to go and get her groceries. Or Brett's out. The Cancers are out. Bring the people. Right? Bring the people. And you start to have like these kind of magical experiences, right? And it's the divine. It's like, they're out. Come on, bring some people. Bring some good experiences to them. Show them that it's safe to open up their heart, right? Yeah. 100%, Brett. Emotional work, that's the key. I can't stress that enough. And the ego will say, no, you can't do that. You're going to be weak. You'll be walked over. People will take advantage of you. Anything to get you from going through that tunnel, to your emotional body, that ego will be grabbing your leg and pulling you back and throwing distractions here and there. But that's where you go. So keep your focus on that, right? That's the expansion. This is the peace, being peaceful and happy for no reason. That's how you get there, is evolving through the emotional body. Okay. And like I said, this new moon is very much about the ego. The 12 is very, very ego-based. We're not at the end, are we? I think we are. Yeah, because we already did Gemini. Okay. So just before we log out here is a reminder that I'm doing the Prosperity webinar series. And I've got this here. So it's not just, it's your human design chart. So there's lots of information there. It's also your Western astrology. But I'm not just about that. You know that if you followed me, right? So it's your unique, it's about uniqueness, right? It's about your unique relationship to prosperity according to your destiny. That's in your chart. How you uniquely attract money and resources to you. And then Kundalini Yoga meditations, and one of them will be transcend past life vows of poverty. So these religious vows that we take in our past lives, and we've all done this rodeo many times. A lot of us have come from religious order, right? Back in our past lives. Well, these vows are very powerful. They follow us from lifetime and lifetime after lifetime. So they can really influence you. They can really influence you and how you attract. Because right now, we need spiritual people out on the streets, right? Just being a role model for this new age of Aquarius. But we also need to be supported materially, right? So the values of the world are changing. Don't deny that. People are going to they're starting to value spirituality and their healing more and more and more, because this ego is starting to lose its power, right? It's influenced the whole world. Well, this will make you happy, right? This will make you peaceful. And it's like, no, only going back home into your authentic eternal self. That's what's going to bring peace and happiness. Okay? And also I work a lot with the unconscious mind and subconscious mind, and then learning what self-value and self-worth, right? Just letting go of these blocks. So if you go deeper into human design, there's something called motivation. This is like going deep into the lines. But mine is leader, is called leader. And so leaders are all about empowering people in terms of their prosperity, So I've been really embracing that. So I want to help you. It helps me. It's like a win-win for all of us. So I want to help you with your prosperity too. And what that means, right? Like going deep into the frequency of what does prosperity mean. I'm really excited about there's new stuff coming in too. So I just want to let people know that. And that starts July 1st and 9th, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So it'll probably be 8 to 10 hours, not all one, like divided up, right? And you'll have the recording and stuff. So really tune in. It's like, oh, is that for me or not? And you'll know, you'll get a zing, okay? So that's what I want to say. And thank you so much for everybody that joined in. And my prayer is that helps somebody that listens to this. And if only just to remind us why we're here on this planet. We're here for a greater purpose, okay? So do this work, this inner work, and it pays off. I can testify to that myself. Okay, so I'll see you next video, and Satnam Aloha, everybody. Bye-bye. All the best.